TV Gold, and I'm your host Aditi Lamba. Welcome to another edition of Inside Scoop, where we bring you the best of South Asian influence and personalities from India and over here. Today, with pleasure and with a lot of love, I welcome on the show someone who I consider a friend and who I consider is definitely a pioneer for women in the fashion industry over here. Someone who's really proudly producing in the US, as well as someone who's really proudly portraying the South Asian culture and heritage. On the show from Harleen Kaur, let's welcome Harleen Kaur Chhabra. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you for having me.
Harleen, it's absolute pleasure to finally get you here in the studio.
Yes.
I've been trying to do this feature with you for so long. You know, like your entire idea of bringing forth a Thai, Punjabi, American influence brand is like very interesting, but it's also kind of complicated. And you know, it often sort of makes someone understand, want to understand where did it come from. So sort of, starting this interview, and just for our viewers, give us a little insight into, growing up to parents who were raised in Thailand and then being raised here, but being a Punjabi. How did that sort of influence your cultural values, and then how much of that sort of influenced your fashion values?
So my parents, actually my grandparents had moved to Thailand.
Wow.
So a few of my grandparents were actually all my grandparents were born and raised in Thailand.
Wow.
But at that point they had two houses. So one in Pakistan, it was Punjab back then, but present day Pakistan, and then one in Thailand, and then during the partition everybody just moved over to Thailand. So my parents were born and raised there completely. So,
wow.
I'm sure a lot of people who have moved to America can relate that, when you move to a new country, you assimilate, you start to, you start to take in the values and beliefs of that country. So they did that in Thailand, right? And then my parents moved from Thailand to here. So you have two of those. You did that twice, right? You took in the Thai culture and the values, and then you come to America and you do the same. So growing up, it was like everything, We had Punjabi food in the house. We had Thai food in the house. People were speaking Thai and Punjabi to us and English. When we went back home to Thailand, it was the same thing. So it was a blessing, to be honest, because you have so much of that influence in your life, and you start to really appreciate different cultures and religions and values. And then, growing up, I always had different taste, and all of those things kind of, influenced me. So when I started designing and started getting into fashion and art and stuff, all of this stuff influenced me. So there's little bits and pieces of everything that you can find, and there's obviously intrinsically American things as well.
Right, and when you talked and interacted with Punjabi communities in both countries, where did you sort of drive some of those values of the community? Because, you really bring forth certain aspects of the Punjabi culture and the Sikh American culture for everyone. She is, proudly sporting a lot of turbans on, her fashion brand. You're catering to a particular community in certain sense. Where did you sort of pick those elements up?
So my parents and grandparents were very religious, and I became religious growing up too, and it was a choice.
Right.
At a certain point, my parents were like, your religion is your choice.
Right.
We raised you as Sikh, but if you choose to be something else, if you choose not to follow Sikhism, it's up to you. But obviously, I really love my religion, and I kept my hair. I do bat every day. I try as hard as I can to be a good Sikh. And a lot of those values are in the brand as well. We ethically produce our products.
Right.
And we're paying people fair wages. And that's part of, being a Sikh is earning an honest living.
Right.
And that's what I'm trying to do too. So, growing up, they instilled all of these values in us, and the religion instilled all of these values in us too.
Right.
My brothers, my dad, they're all full sardars. So, them not being able to find floral bugs or printed bugs. My dad grew up wearing printed bugs, and on his wedding day, he was wearing a printed bug. But, we went to Thailand, even India, and we couldn't find that many anywhere.
Right.
And I was like, why? Why did it go out of fashion and nobody brought it back? So that was something that I was like really excited about doing when I first started the brand.
Would you say perhaps there is a lack of diversity or versatility when you are looking into Punjabi fashion, especially for men when you're talking about this?
Yeah, for men especially. I think like especially when you go to India, a lot of stores cater mainly towards women.
Right.
Even like, you'll go into a store that's maybe like 1,000 square feet, maybe like 200 square feet is dedicated to men.
Right.
And a lot of it is like very similar, and nothing is as intricate as the women's stuff is.
Right.
So we actually went to India for my brother's wedding shopping, and I found that there. I found that every store we went into, it was almost the same sherwanis, the same kurtas, like just very small differences or the exact same ones. Mm-hmm. And there was absolutely no variation in my mind where we shopped. I'm sure it exists in India in general, but where we went in Delhi, there was no variation. And so I felt like it was something that needed to be done.
Right. And I also think that, having lots of floral turbans as a display, or having, certain elements of your brand cater towards Sikh awareness, I think it's very imperative right now, especially not just in the US, but we just haven't seen a lot of it. And, recently you've been hearing about certain big label fashion brands finally addressing the turban, sort of bringing forth that language. But, how has that experience been for you, having that Sikh awareness been so influential in your designs and your work here?
I just feel like there's not many brands that I know of that cater to Sikhs, let alone like Sikh men, for fashion at least. So it was important to me to have at least some options available for them. And I think that a lot of people have responded really well to it. They've said that there's something that I'm providing that wasn't in the market before, especially not readily accessible within the US. So a lot of people have really appreciated it. There have definitely been, just because my name is Harleen Kaur doesn't mean that I'm advocating for very religious beliefs. Yes, I am religious as a person, but that doesn't mean my company stands for every single Sikh value, right? So we posted like a picture on one of our social media accounts with a guy who is a Sikh, but he cuts his hair. And his hair is long enough that he puts it up in like a bun sometimes. So somebody commented on it and they were like, this is against Sikhism. You should always have a Sikh man with his hair covered. And it's like, that's my belief, maybe, but I can't force that upon everybody. This model came and that's how he dresses every day. So you want me to tell that person he can't live his life the way he wants to? Like, I'm not trying to promote Sikhism with my brand. I'm just trying to give more options to, yes, Sikh men, Punjabi women, Hindu women. Exactly. Like every single culture and religion you could imagine.
It's more of a celebration of a South Asian influence with actually a higher Asian influence when you bring in the Thai culture, wouldn't you say that?
Exactly, yeah, exactly. It's not like this brand is only for Sikh people.
Exactly.
It's for every culture and any culture who wants to appreciate some of the aspects of this brand that celebrate, Indian traditions, Thai traditions. We feature Italian jacquards, Spanish prints on silk. You know, there's a lot of different things that we include that aren't even necessarily Asian.
Right.
It's supposed to be a celebration of diversity.
You know, Harleen, I was reading an article you had given some opinions to, and in there you said that you really wanted to bring forth a brand that celebrated Western with Eastern, and you know, you didn't want a piece just to cater to an Indian market, because you didn't necessarily just relate to the Indian market. You related to everyone here because you're an American.
Exactly.
So for, you know, bringing that element, and from the get-go knowing that you will cater to both markets, and somehow you have to make your clothing so versatile. You know, take me through that process. You know, what really went into that concept and that formation? And, you know, what were some of the biggest obstacles that you had to face, sort of, you know, to overcome and actually present a brand that was fair on both sides?
Yeah, so I mean, just growing up, I think every single girl and guy, at least my generation growing up in this country, felt like this. You know, you had this separation between your Indian clothes and your American clothes, right? For me, I actually had two closets. You know, one was dedicated to my Indian stuff, and another one was dedicated to my American stuff, and nothing ever crossed over.
Right.
And I think it's a very bizarre concept, because us as Americans, there's so much crossover in every other aspect of our life, right? And there was so many things I wanted to purchase in terms of Indian clothing that, you know, it's sold as a set. You have to get the top, you have to get the skirt, and you have to get the chunni with it, right?
That's so true.
You can't mix and match. And even if you have two outfits, it's really hard to put them together.
We never really saw an interlink between a sari or a suit ever, you know, like an actual suit or a dress. That's so true. That's so true. I agree with you.
So, I mean, there's no sense of style really in that, right? You're buying an outfit as an outfit, whereas with your American clothes, you're buying a top, then maybe a few months later, you're buying some pants to go with that top, and you can change your shoes and your hair and all that stuff every single time, right? You can pair that same top with a skirt next time if you want. So I felt like there was a need for that within our Indian fashion as well. So, you know, just the idea of having pieces in your closet that you can reuse and repurpose for a long amount of time, or an extended amount of time, versus wearing it once just as this outfit and only being able to wear it again as that outfit, you know, a year later, whenever. And now, especially with social media, nobody wants to wear the same thing twice. But the thing is, if you have things you can mix and match, you can wear it as many times as you want. You know, if you just restyle it each way and reimagine ways that you can wear it, it becomes easier. You know?
You know, you're just talking a little bit more about the style, Harleen. I have to ask you, so what perhaps are certain elements that you sort of had to concentrate on in order to sort of create looks that could be used multiple ways? And also, again, you know, the bigger picture is catering to a greater audience. You don't even feature just Indian models. You know, everyone check out her pages on Instagram and her website, and you'll see there's diversity in just the people displaying your clothing. So, you know, what do you focus on in order to sort of create that balance? And, you know, stylistically, whatever you can tell our viewers, you know, whatever they can gain out of your, you know, insight into your fashion techniques, you know, give us a little bit into it.
So, I mean, to really cater towards a diverse market, we use diverse fabrics, we use diverse cuts. So, you know, you start with the basic lehenga, right? Crop top and a skirt. And you know, there's a lot of people even on the red carpet that are doing this look. A lot of huge high-end designers, whether it's American or European designers, who are doing this style too now. But you know, you can essentially take a crop top and pair it with so many other bottoms later on. You can essentially take a skirt and pair it with so many other tops later on. So it starts with that base, right? And then you try and figure out what is a more versatile style of a top, right? So like this top is a simple crop top, but it's in like a fabric, it's in like a black cotton with some gold details on it, right? So I could easily wear this to an Indian function. But I could also wear it like I am right now with a pair of high-waisted pants and, you know, some shoes. And I think that I think getting people to see that there is versatility in these clothes is one battle, but also being able to provide them with options that are, you know, versatile themselves is the beginning. Right. So, you know, using different fabrics, maybe not everything is hand embroidered and beaded. We do have those options available for the people who are interested in that, but, you know, not every single piece has to be that way. You can dress it up with jewelry. You can make, you know, your makeup different in order to be okay to wear it to an Indian wedding or an Indian function where, you know, if you're wearing it day to day, maybe you could go lighter on the makeup, maybe you have more natural hair, you know.
Is most of the fabric, though, more authentic and traditional from India, perhaps?
No, so we source fabric from around the world. We work with mills from Spain, from Italy, from China, from Korea, from Japan, from India as well.
Right.
But it's not mainly India. I would say like everything is such a mix of, you know, everything. We have European mills, Turkish jacquards. We use a lot of Turkish fabrics.
Wow.
There's, you know, everything mixed in. And it's not like I go and seek out things from Italy or from Spain or from India, but, you know, if I come across them and they're beautiful, I use them.
You know, Harleen, I kind of want to bring us back into the brand and how you have sort of created this market, and you're working with artisans and you're working with seamstresses in New York City.
Yeah.
Then you are, you know, sourcing your fabric from all across the world. You're looking for authenticity, you're looking for traditional qualities, but you're also looking for versatility.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're working with a lot of people that put a lot of effort on creating their own art and sort of expanding on that. I kind of want to sort of pick your brain on this a little bit into, you know, the perspective behind it.
Yeah.
Why not go to India and produce it in India? Why work with, you know, locals here in the garment district? You know, I kind of want to ask you on that, because that makes a huge impact on a smaller scale business here, you know, especially in the US.
Yeah, so there's a few different reasons. The first and foremost reason was, you know, you hear a lot of these really sad stories of factories overseas. There's people that are, you know, indentured slaves, servants. There's people who are being forced into labor, child labor, really unsafe working conditions, and people that are being really underpaid. There was a building collapse, a factory collapse in Bangladesh. Maybe like, you know, what is it now, like 5-6 years ago, maybe even a little longer, and over 1,000 people died because the building was just unsafe. And, you know, that kind of stuff, to me, it makes me feel very guilty, because I was buying t-shirts and tops and skirts that were, you know, $5, $10, you know, the cheapest you could find, but at what cost? Right? Like, you know, the cost of that was these people's lives.
Right.
And, you know, I don't know if my purchases directly influenced that specific occurrence, but in general, like, I personally don't want that guilt on me. I don't want that on my conscience to know that, you know, I condoned that type of behavior overseas because there's just no regulations, or the regulations aren't enforced in those countries. In the US, those regulations are enforced. The working environments in the city are definitely better. You know, the minimum wage is obviously, it's set. And people have to adhere to it. There's, you know, laws in place, and they're strictly enforced in the US, whereas they're not overseas. So having people paid fairly in a safe working environment,
that's so true,
was important to me. And on top of all of that, having oversight, so being able to go to the factory whenever I want, you know, throughout the working day, of course. Being able to go there and say, like, you know, hey, can I see what you're working on? Can I see how the seams are, whether the stitching is right? Maybe something's a little off. I can, you know, I have that oversight. I can go and see how everything's going. If I need something within a few days, they can do it because it's right here. And, you know, when you're working with factories overseas, they'll send you something. It takes a few days for shipping. If it's wrong, you have to send it back a few more days. You know, it could be up to a week or two just to fix something.
That's so true.
So it's hard, you know, and of course the prices are a lot higher here. You're paying so much more than you would for production overseas, but for me, it's peace of mind, right? And I personally am willing to pay a little bit more to know that my garments were, you know, made by somebody who really cares about what they're making, who is producing with factories that are ethical, and they're treating their employees right, and they're providing a safe working environment. So, and I found that a lot of people, especially in our generation, are willing to spend a little bit more for that also.
Harleen, what is your sort of take on, this is a really interesting topic, everyone, that she's brought up, manufacturing back into, and outsourcing of manufacturing has been a huge issue. It's been a huge debate for over the years. It's taken so many businesses out of here and has produced more businesses overseas, and that is something that we often speak about it. You are, talking about a proper display of sort of that American dream in which you are producing and empowering the community within here, the artisans within here, and the professionals within here. And you are trying to make a business out of it because you live here. What is your comment on certain designers such as yourself who are sort of now pushing forth, this movement of manufacturing for fashion back to the US, and also sort of promoting the idea of supporting designers such as yourself, with that in mind?
I think that it's an important initiative, and I do think that this market of people that are producing domestically is definitely growing, whether it's, South Asian fashion or just American fashion. It started obviously with the American fashion, and I saw so many American designers that were doing it, so I felt like, it's possible for South Asian wear too. And not to, say anything terrible or bad about designers that are producing overseas, because some people have found places that ethically manufacture as well. And they find it okay to travel back and forth in order to ensure everything ships on time, everything is made on time and made accurately. But for me, this is a better business model. It's more sustainable long term. I don't have to be up at 2 a.m. communicating with somebody overseas all the time. I mean, there's still some stuff that, the hand-beaded work, we still get our panels made in India for hand beading, and then they get shipped here and we sew them together here. But it's so beautiful from India. You can't, even so many really nice beading and handwork places in France, in Italy, in Europe, they get their stuff done in India because it's so good. The quality just can't be beat for some of those things. So we still get a lot of our handwork done over there, but we just have found that manufacturing there isn't feasible for us. And like you said, I think it's also important to be able to help people and help other businesses in this area grow too, because back in the 70s, 70%, it was in the 1900s at some point, and like between 1950 and 1970, I think over 70% of the garments that we bought as Americans were made domestically.
Wow.
And then it slowly started to move overseas. Now it's, incrementally coming back up, but so slowly. And I think, it's so important for us to have access to having those things here. Maybe it just supplements the overseas market of production too, but I think it's important to actually have some businesses at least that are producing here.
Nice. Having an American produced company, do you think has helped you sort of expand the proportion of people you could perhaps reach, and maybe get you clients that are attracted to just that attribute?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of people who might initially appreciate the fact that we're doing everything domestically, and then they'll come in and look at the collection and then say, oh my God, I actually really like this, right? Instead of vice versa, which is how most people shop. They say, oh, I really like this outfit, and then they find out more about the brand. But there is a lot of people who will, say, oh my God, you guys are manufactured in the US. And then I think it creates a better connection, a more emotional connection with the customers, because and throughout we've only been in business for like 2 years, and it's grown a lot. And throughout that growth, we've got to speak with customers and see what they really want and what they really like about the brand. And the fact that we do manufacture in the US is one of those things.
Harleen, you just talked about the customers, and I kind of have to bring now this interview into this really important part, which is, the power of influencing you've had and the amount of social media love you've gotten over just a short span of time. Again, everyone, look up her accounts and you'll know what I'm talking about. Such a short span of time and so much success. You've been, sort of collaborating with a lot of big influencers, a lot of major South Asian, social media personalities, to, social media groups, as well as huge publications have all worked with you. Even your recent campaign was so beautiful, in which you talked about the influence of South Asian culture. And again, it went like viral. It's already gone viral. It's only been a couple of days. Talk to me about that space that you've sort of, made for yourself. And, what do you have to say to these people that work with you and that really have shown you so much love,
So I was very, very fortunate growing up. Not only did I have the support of my parents and my family, but I had the support of all of my friends as well. My parents, before I even wanted to go to design school, they were like, do it if it's what you want to do and you love it, because it's important. Yeah.
Punjabi parents telling their very nice, like in the faith daughter that it's okay to go to design school. Punjabi parents,
well, so I started off actually as a chemistry major. So during high school, I took fashion design classes, and my parents were super supportive of it. They were like, if you want to go into fashion design school, do it.
Wow.
But then I was like, I really like science too. I might want to be a doctor also.
Be conventional.
So I wasn't sure. And I ended up applying for, medicine, chemistry, science degree, right? So I went to school for chemistry, did my first year, and then I was like, you know what, I can't anymore. I really miss design. I really miss art. I really miss fashion. So I switched majors to costume design, and I went through that education. Along the way, everybody's been so supportive of everything. So I've been really, really lucky.
I want to ask you, while we were talking about this, you've been really lucky in that aspect. For anyone that's watching you right now, and for, other women that really want to be in this fashion industry. Now, I have to say, it's one of the hardest industry to get started off, and especially being an Indian American who's expected always to be so conventional, it's even harder. What would you tell those parents that might be currently stopping those goals and telling them to actually perhaps pursue med school and not support, an unconventional career, because it is risky?
Yeah, so I've met so many people who are like, I became an accountant and I really want to get into fashion. Wow. So I started a blog. And going back to what you asked about the influencers, like a lot of these influencers, they have day jobs doing something else. Some of them are in accounting, some of them are even doctors, and they really missed, that creativity. So they decided to start an Instagram account and make a style blog, or do something else, right? That's more fashion related, style related, become a photographer, become a videographer, become a makeup artist, things that, I think traditional Punjabi, Indian, South Asian parents were not so supportive of maybe 10, 15 years ago. I, again, was so lucky, and I'm so grateful that I had supportive parents, because I'm able to live out my dream now. And a lot of these other people have, had to overcome more obstacles in order to do so, in the terms of, their family being supportive or not. And to those parents, I would say, it's about your child's happiness, right? Do you want your child to be going into a career where they're unhappy? Or do you want them to do something that they truly love? Maybe they're not going to be making $500,000 a year, $100,000 a year. But to be honest, for me personally, I would rather make enough to, just get by even, and be doing what I love every single day, than be suffering at a job where I'm not happy and making more money. Personally, that's my belief. And I feel like a lot of people my age, believe that also. Well,
thank you so much for being with us here on ITV Go, Harleen.
So
I have to ask you one last question for all of the viewers that are watching us. We can't let go our fashion designer off air without asking her about some tips, that you can give for all our viewers, styling tips or tips about fashion for spring 29. Anything that you want to tell to all of the women and men watching you on ITV Gold?
Yeah, I definitely think one of the big things that we promote as a brand, obviously, is versatility.
Yeah.
So being able to buy pieces that are versatile, whether it's our brand or something else, being able to take one thing and pair it with another, and then, a top goes with a skirt today, maybe that same top goes with pants tomorrow. Being able to have that versatility in your closet is so important. I think the whole world and a lot of our generation in the US is becoming more environmentally conscious. So I think being able to really embrace that is going to be really important. I think, you should never be afraid of color. If you look at our website, obviously you know this, we're like color, color, color. But I think obviously having staple pieces that are more neutral colors are good to have in your wardrobe too. This year we did a 2019 collection. So this collection is actually, it encompasses every single season of the year. So whether it's spring, summer, fall, winter, you have an option for every season within there. We might come out with like small capsules throughout the year, but for the most part, this is the collection. And we're gonna show people on our Instagram and on our website and on our blog how to restyle things. So, you know, how to take this pajama pant and wear it with 5 different things in your closet. So we're gonna try and help people in that way, because a lot of people have been like, you know, I love this, but I don't know how to style it. So we're gonna try and do more of those this year too. So hopefully if that happens in the next few months, we'll be able to share that with you too.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for giving us so much into your brand. And as always, I look forward to continuously working with you. Everyone, you know, we are very proud to always partner with Harleen Kaur for so many of our events. Thank you again for being on ITV Go with us.
Thank you so much for having me.